My boyfriend had a burner phone he wouldn't explain. The reason why broke my heart. I was helping Joey move boxes from his car when something fell out from behind the spare tire and hit the concrete with a dull thud. It was an iPhone, but it was old and had a cracked screen, completely different from the newer model he carried every day. I picked it up and asked whose it was, but he grabbed it from my hands faster than I'd ever seen him move and shoved it into his jacket pocket. His entire body went rigid. I laughed it off at first because people do weird things, right? Maybe it was an old device he'd forgotten about. But then he snapped at me, "Forget you ever saw this and never touch my stuff again." And suddenly, we weren't laughing anymore. I couldn't stop thinking about that phone. All week, I replayed the moment in my head, analyzing his reaction, convincing myself there had to be an explanation that made sense. But explanations didn't come. He started being distant, staying late at work, coming home and immediately going to his car to grab something from under the seat. One afternoon when he was showering, I heard a buzz from the nightstand. I looked in the drawer and there was the phone. A text came through from someone named Riley. "I miss you. Can I see you again soon?" My hands were actually shaking when I opened it. I confronted him the second he came out of the bathroom, holding the phone up and asking who the hell Riley was. Joey's face drained of color. He snatched the phone back and said, "It's complicated, and it's not what you think. You don't understand, and if you can't trust me, then maybe we shouldn't be together." He wouldn't say anything else no matter how hard I pushed. I started checking that phone whenever I could. I found months of messages between Joey and Riley, all of them strange and vague, but they made me uncomfortable. "Hope you're having a good day. I love you so much. Can't wait to see you soon." I found photos in the gallery too, but they weren't what I expected to see. There were birthday cakes and Christmas trees, obviously mementos from important dates and memories. Nothing explicit, nothing that screamed affair, but everything that screamed lies. I found a note in his phone labeled birthday fund with dates and amounts listed underneath. The evidence was stacked too high to climb over anymore. When I confronted him with everything spread out in front of him, Joey wouldn't even look at it. He just said that if our relationship meant anything, that I needed to trust him. I followed him 3 days later. He drove across town to a neighborhood I'd never been to, pulled up to a modest house with a small porch, and just sat in his car for what felt like forever before getting out. I watched him disappear inside. Through the front window, I could see him at a kitchen table with a woman I'd never seen before in my entire life. She was younger, maybe late 30s, and they were both leaning forward like they were sharing something heavy. They weren't touching, but there was an intimacy to the way they were looking at each other that made my stomach hurt. She looked angry and sad at the same time. Eventually, they got up and hugged. My stomach felt sick seeing him embracing another woman. When Joey finally came back out to his car almost an hour later, I stepped out of the shadows and asked him to explain everything to me right now. He looked at me like I'd gutted him. He said he couldn't explain it yet, not today, that it wasn't his secret to tell by himself, and that if I loved him, I had to trust him for just one more day. He said tomorrow I would understand everything, but right now he needed me to let it go. He drove away, and I stood alone in that driveway for what felt like hours, my mind spinning through scenarios that got darker and more twisted with each one. The next day, Joey told me to sit down because we needed to talk. His voice was calm but heavy, like he was bracing for impact. Then he said it. "Riley is my son." The words hit like a ripped bandage over an old wound that had never really healed. A son, not some random person, not an affair. His actual child, one I'd never even known existed. He explained that it happened before we met, that things with Riley's mother had been messy and complicated. She'd taken full custody when Riley was little, and Joey hadn't been part of his life. The secret phone, he admitted, was how they'd stayed in touch ever since Riley got his own. His mother had no idea, but Joey was done hiding it. He wanted a real relationship with his son, and that was why he'd gone to confront her. He'd had paperwork drawn up to regain partial custody of Riley. I'm finally going to be the father that I should have been for all these years.